Senator Sakaja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a statement, pass on to Standing Order 47-1 on a matter of county-wide concern and national concern, and in fact international concern, because it's in Nairobi, on the current state of Nairobi City County. Mr. Speaker, currently we are facing a tragedy of untold proportions that as we speak, Mr. Speaker, my county, our county of Nairobi that we all love, is mortally ill with 1 foot in the grave, suffering a triple calamity of a governor with no substantive deputy, a non-functional executive, and an assembly in shambles. Mr. Speaker, Nairobi City County continues to sink further into an abyss of mismanagement and impunity, and as anarchy and disorder reign supreme at the City Hall, services to Nairobi citizens have practically ground to a halt, Mr. Speaker. On matters of service provision, the citizens and the people of Nairobi are grappling with a myriad of inconveniences, frustrations, and general lack of basic services and amenities. Instead, the people are being treated with all manner of shadow boxing and dramatization. Recently, we saw the chaos in the assembly and a lot of drama that is happening in this city county by the people who are supposed to offer services to Nairobians. It has to be said, Mr. Speaker, that the Constitution envisages a very clear distinction and sharing of roles between the national and county governments. The national government has done its part in the city through its ministries and agencies. Members of parliament have done their part through in representation and legislation and development through what they patronize in the NGCDF. And even as this is going on, most of the critical, the most important services that touch the common Nairobian are still devolved and are domiciled at City Hall. And that's the need for attention on those services. Mr. Speaker, as a Senator, I want to thank the Senate, and I want to thank my colleagues in the Senate, because we have together dutifully conducted our constitutional duty of allocating monies to Nairobi City County and all the counties through the Division of Revenue Bill. And this is why the people of Nairobi are demanding accountability for the billions of shillings that have been allocated to Nairobi annually. The highest chunk that this House passes goes to Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, in the last 2 years, Nairobi City County has received in excess of 52 billion shillings. This is from equitable share, own source revenue, and grants. Mr. Speaker, 52 billion in 2 years, yet taps remain dry, garbage remains uncollected, sewage is flowing freely, estate and feeder roads in deplorable conditions, residents are seeking health services in private establishments or elsewhere because county dispensaries and those at the lower level are not able to provide the services, and other critical services remain unrendered. Mr. Speaker, the breakdown of what I've said is that in 2017-18 financial year, we were able to give Nairobi County 15.4 billion. And I'm glad as a senator I pushed for my county to get 15.4 billion, we got it. Own source revenue was 10 billion, conditional grants 817 million. That is 26 billion for 1 year. 2018-2019, Mr. Speaker, as Senator of Nairobi, I made sure, and I thank my colleagues, that you gave Nairobi County 15.8 billion. Own source revenue again was 10 billion, conditional grants 179 million. The total available funds 26 billion in Nairobi City County. Mr. Speaker, if we were to academically divide that amount, of course, we know there's recurrent, but that translates to around 3 billion shillings per constituency amongst the 17 constituencies of Nairobi, meaning that Nairobians should feel a development impact somewhat, of course not of 3 billion, but every part of this county, Nairobi should feel some impact of these 52 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, I received a report last week from the Controller of Budget. As of October 2019, Nairobi City County has not used a single shilling of the development budget of the 2018-2019, according to the Controller of Budget. The amounts that have been used are those of recurrent expenditure. So the citizens are demanding to know what the billions that this House dutifully allocates to Nairobi, and to your counties as well, I'm sure, are doing to better the plight of our residents. The county government has failed in delivering critical services enumerated as county functions, as I had listed earlier: health, water, sewage, sanitation, estate and feeder roads, physical planning, early childhood education, amongst others. Currently, and Senator Kasanga will tell you, the construction industry in Kenya is at a standstill because it's a sector, not only does it provide employment to thousands of Nairobians. But Mr. Speaker, it creates a lot of movement on our GDP. But the planning department in Nairobi City County has been shut down owing to suspensions. This has led to inordinate delays in approval of building approvals. When will these officers be replaced if they are guilty, Mr. Speaker? And if they are not, when will they come back? Mr. Speaker, our concern is not the individuals, because Nairobi cannot be held hostage by individuals, but that all departments need to work as they should work for the benefit of this county. Members of the County Assembly, who ideally form the first line of defense and oversight, are operating in a hostile environment. An unfunctional executive, nepotism, bullying, intimidation, physical assault, destruction, violence, as you've seen, has left MCAs with their hands behind their back, limited on service delivery to the electorate. In fact, even now, a section of them are doing a press conference to counter one we did earlier. Yet, if they go to their wards, they cannot point to the actual development that is being done. Yet, they should play an oversight role, Mr. Speaker. Among the questions that we'll be seeking this House to look into through a statement from the relevant committee at the right time, Mr. Speaker, and also through the Auditor General, is that one, whether it is true that Nairobi City County has engaged services of 6,000 youth who are not under any contract and are not and are paid through a county suspense account, and they said youth are also misused sometimes politically to cause mayhem and inflict injury on any dissenting voice whenever the county leadership feels threatened. Mr. Speaker, incidentally, these same young people the other day came to me because they had not been paid for a long time. Number two, is it true that the revenue collection system, Mr. Speaker, was single-sourced, or is it the county doing it? Mr. Speaker, I praised the county earlier when we got rid of Jumbo Pay, because I was happy we got rid of Jumbo Pay. I always had doubts of that contract. But, Mr. Speaker, we were not getting rid of Jumbo Pay to open the route for another funny company. Mr. Speaker, we wanted our county to build capacity to collect revenue. Is it true that there have been contracts on refurbishment of hospitals that have been single-sourced, or that the insurance cover has been illegally procured, and that the incapability of Nairobi City County to operate is occasioned by, among others, the fact that the executive is not properly constituted as envisaged in the law? These are statements I brought to this House earlier. The excuse that came that time from the governor was that the legal framework was not done. The law that was brought by, in this House, I think by the leader of majority, was passed and assented to by the president. And the county government is operating without a deputy governor and without substantive CCs. We need them to be properly constituted. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I seek the Senate's help. Because when Nairobi is not working, the whole of Kenya does not work. All these questions from 2017 we brought to this House have not found closure. We cannot just sit and see a county that is not constituted the way it should and not operating the way it should, Mr. Speaker. Our Senate has relevant committees that can take this up, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Leader of Majority, Senator Murkomen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Cheriot was cracking a joke. Mr. Speaker, Senator Sakaja has made a very important statement about the state of affairs in Nairobi County. Mr. Speaker, the relevant committee that deals with intergovernmental relations and checks on governance issues related to our counties is the Devolution Committee. Mr. Speaker, there have been complaints from the beginning of this term of governance in Nairobi, and particularly from the governor himself. Mr. Speaker, the governor has gone public several times that Nairobi is full of cartels. And in fact, he is on record many times saying that even enlisting the support of the President of the Republic of Kenya to deal with cartels in Nairobi. Number two, Mr. Speaker, that Nairobi has become a battlefield for external political players that are not necessarily the leaders who are either in the county executive led by the governor or in the county assembly, Mr. Speaker, where there is a battle between the speaker, the majority leader, and the clerk. Mr. Speaker, Nairobi is extremely important for this country, including this House. Senator Sakaja has done the best he could, several times coming with statements about the roads, about all these other facilities, Mr. Speaker. But there is a more fundamental issue bedeviling Nairobi. Even though Senator Sakaja said there is no need to talk about individuals, there is a problem with Nairobi that is governance, which is now affecting, Mr. Speaker, the delivery of services. And that governance challenge, Mr. Speaker, seems to be above and beyond Governor Mike Sonko. And to his own admission, Mr. Speaker, there is an existing cartel. Why can this House committee assist Nairobi County through a properly organized hearing that this House, Mr. Speaker, will be able to listen to the governor? He comes to this House, Mr. Speaker, because the governor was a member of this House. He was the deputy majority whip. So he understands, Mr. Speaker, how this House operates. Why can this House, under Article 96, assist the governor by inviting him to come here? And Mr. Speaker, we address and put forth all these stumbling blocks, governance stumbling blocks that is faced in Nairobi. That makes it difficult, Mr. Speaker, to deal with corruption. I am told every sector of the county government, and I really agree with Senator Sakaja, there is a problem with the building because some of us are also practicing law. Mr. Speaker, if you want to do matters property in this Nairobi, it's difficult because that department has nobody. And if you ask the governor, he says he suspended everybody because, Mr. Speaker, they were colluding and there were cartels taking people's land. And I've seen the governor even fighting for some property in South Sea, somewhere in Gong Road, Mr. Speaker, returning some properties for people. There's a problem in Nairobi. And Mr. Speaker, maybe some people may have a problem with the governance, but there must be a disruption in this city so that cartels can be removed. And that disruption I'm saying because there are people who are sitting and planning in this town how to snatch people their properties. We saw reports of how an Indian, Mr. Speaker, a Kenyan citizen who was an Indian, or who had not even acquired the Kenyan citizenship, they were planning to deport him, Mr. Speaker, and change his papers. Many Kenyans who have not of African descent have suffered the same fate in this Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. And there are some who are Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, of African descent and indigenous, Mr. Speaker, born and brought up in this country, and they're also suffering because of this cartel thing. Why can't we give an opportunity to Governor Songo to appear before this House and we deal with this cartel conversation once and for all? Number two, Mr. Speaker, we need to deal with the issue of the county assembly. I don't think it is right the way county assembly is fighting and they're the ones to oversight. And Mr. Speaker, since we protected the interests of the counties, again, the whip, Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note in this House that the majority whip in last term is the Speaker of Nairobi. His deputy, her deputy, Mr. Speaker, is the Governor of Nairobi. So, Mr. Speaker, we must be able to help these people as former colleagues to find out why City Hall is becoming the problem that is facing the problems that are facing now. And Mr. Speaker, I like what Senator Sakaja said. We are not here to fight the governor or the speaker. We want to help them. They are our friends. They are our colleagues. We want to sit down with them and tell them where there is need for legal intervention, let's deal it. Where a national government officer is interfering with the functions of Nairobi County government, we deal with it. And this House is capable to do it. And I want to challenge, Mr. Speaker, the devolution committee, because I used to chair that committee last time, that this is a great opportunity for you to provide solution to the question of, Mr. Speaker, intergovernmental relations that is affecting Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, there are instances that I really want to congratulate the county for the things they are doing and responding to people's concerns directly, but the governor cannot do that if he doesn't have a stable staff that are supporting him and stable departments that are working. We are here to support and to find solution, Mr. Speaker, not to continue putting problems. And I want to thank the leaders of Nairobi, who are the members of parliament, for willingness to work together with the county government to solve these problems. And I'm sure, and I encourage the governor and the speaker to convene a sitting because they have a responsibility and constitutional powers to run this Nairobi, to even sua moto on their own motion, convene a sitting of all the leaders in Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, all the members of parliament, all the MCAs, and agree to, Mr. Speaker, put aside all other differences to sort out the mess of Nairobi, and particularly the problem of cartels. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chila yako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the failure of Nairobi as a county is a national failure. It is something that we all cannot run away with. we are intertwined with Nairobi, and when we talk about devolution, if Nairobi fails, then there is no need to talk about devolution in Mandera, in Mombasa, in Migori, or anywhere else, because Nairobi should be the shining example of success of devolution. So, Mr. Speaker, my proposal would be this one. I've heard the majority leader propose that you invite the governor of Nairobi. I am reluctant to endorse that because that invitation will just lead to a baraza. And Mr. Speaker, you know that barazas are not very good. You are in provincial administration. Hecklers will come and try to heckle what you are doing. So my proposal would be...
What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
The Speaker, is Senator Achilo Yako in order to call a sitting of this House, Mr. Speaker, the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, a baraza? Is he insinuating, Mr. Speaker, that you are presiding over a baraza?
No, I think...
is it in order for him...
He didn't say that.
...to leave a baraza in Migori, Mr. Speaker, where he was, and come to this House to look for another baraza?
No, Leader of Majority, I think he didn't say that. I think you missed his point. He did say, unless he wants to clarify, but I got what he said. You can clarify.
Now, Mr. Speaker, you got me very well. Mr. Speaker, we hold your seat in reverence. We think this is a sovereign house where matters are dealt with soberly. We wouldn't want the charlatans and cartel to come and haggle before you. We want to sit as a sober house capable of making resolutions that are legally enforceable and binding to all parties. My suggestion would be that as a house, we should find guidance in law and constitution to set up a select committee to deal with Nairobi. We need to look at all the challenges that have been itemized by the very good brother Senator Sakaja. Some of them fall within legal purviews, others are governance, and many others. We have experienced leadership in this House, experienced and knowledgeable in various areas, reflecting diversity, reflecting skill and talent, reflecting diversity of gender and even religion. Your wisdom can guide the House in putting up this galaxy of leadership so that we have a sitting where various stakeholders in Nairobi, including other elected leaders, can proffer their suggestions, which may be processed so that they can yield something that is workable. But if a mere invitation or just one-off invitation is done to the governor of Nairobi and the cartels come along with him, because I'm sure there are cartels working against his interest and others working for his interest. Mr. Speaker, the spectacle of having cartels arguing before us is one that I do not think Senator Sakaja had envisaged. So I want to suggest to my friend Senator Sakaja and the majority leader to think through how we can constitute a committee to specifically look at the problems that Nairobi has, assign it a room, assign it all the powers and privileges that it should have, so that in the fullness of time they can present to us a report that is actionable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Argura.